my name's Ian Bohn. I am a University of Aberdeen graduate, so I studied there from 2001 to 2005. Got my undergraduate degree in politics and international relations. Shortly after graduating from University of Aberdeen, I took kind of a gap year to go traveling America and Central America, and I was actually born in the States, and so I have dual citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
And so after that gap year, kind of ran out of money, realized it was time to start a career, and found myself in California. And now I live in California in the San Francisco Bay Area, two wonderful kids and a wife, and very settled here.
Amazing. Thank you very much. And why did you decide to study at the University of Aberdeen?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think Aberdeen being one of the classic universities in Scotland always attracted me to the institution. Obviously, a very long and storied history. This history is one of my passions. So, just thinking about how long University of Aberdeen has been an institution, and the opportunity to walk in the footsteps of so many graduates before me, I found really appealing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think just from a geography perspective, like a lot of people, I wanted to get quite far away from my hometown, and so I grew up in the Scottish borders
Mm-hmm.
in southern Scotland, and so this was basically as far as I could go
Yeah.
without leaving Scotland, and so Aberdeen is where I found myself.
Very interesting. And why? So why did you decide to study particularly politics and international relations? And what did you enjoy about the course? And do you apply the knowledge you or skills you got from this course in your current role?
Yeah, I think again, probably like a lot of people, when I was making a determination on what my area of focus would be in my undergraduate degree, I probably didn't have the wealth of information and experience that I have now. So at the time, I think it was largely driven from interest. Like, I think I was very politically engaged at that time, especially on the international relations global front. That's always been a deep interest of mine. So I think that's probably what primarily drove the decision. I really enjoyed my time at University of Aberdeen. I felt like I got the expanse of politics and international relations from the American political system, the British political system, Scandinavian political system, which is probably the course I enjoyed the most, really inspirational Professor Arter. And I think overall,
Mm-hmm.
what it really helped is it gave me that, I think, more global cultural perspective
Mm-hmm.
to set me up for my career. As far as using that degree directly in my work, I work in finance now, and so there definitely isn't kind of that direct connection into it. But I mean, I'm a strong believer in
Yeah.
learning, expanding our knowledge, and I think just from that perspective, it was hugely beneficial for me to set me up
Yeah.
as I transition into
Yeah.
professional life.
Very interesting. And what are some of your favorite memories from being a student at University of Aberdeen?
Yeah, obviously the student union, drinking a lot of beers. We I was a big snooker player,
Mm-hmm.
so my roommate and I would spend a lot of time in snooker halls at Aberdeen, and then I just think that the community,
Mm-hmm.
I made some friends, made some connections that have turned into to lifelong friends, and even now that I'm geographically separated from them, we're still in touch, and so I think that's probably what really stays with me is those relationships with people I met during my time
Yeah.
at the university.
That's very nice. And if you had to summarize your career, what would be your key milestones?
Yeah, so I kind of fell into the finance industry. So I originally started in banking
Mm-hmm.
in California, and then I moved, probably the first major milestone. I moved into institutional investing, asset management, and so I worked at State Street Corporation
Mhm.
for a number of years, and they're probably the largest bank you've never heard of. They're a huge corporation, and then they work on behalf of a lot of institutional investors. And so
Mhm.
my time with them, I was working directly with institutional investors on derivatives pricing, on risk asset management, and that was probably a big milestone because I grew a lot during that time from a knowledge perspective. During that time, I also started to pursue my some qualifications that were much more directly related to my professional career. So I took the certificate in performance measurement, investment performance measurement, and then after that, I took the financial risk manager certification, which is kind of the best in class
Mhm.
certification that actually aligns to a lot of the work I do. And just thinking back to your previous question
Yeah.
on how did you apply your learning to your career,
Mhm.
I think it was through those additional certifications where I actually saw that real direct impact,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of value I think that came from
Mhm.
completing those certifications, both from a career growth perspective and then also from a knowledge perspective. Um, after State Street, I'm now at a large bank, Wells Fargo,
Mhm.
one of the four largest banks in the United States, and here I lead risk oversight function for our large consumer lending businesses. And so again, being able to apply a lot of that risk knowledge that I've accrued over my career and use it maybe in a more expansive setting.
That's very impressive. Very well done. And so, how would you say your typical day looks like at the moment? What do you do?
It's a lot of meetings.
Mhm.
Um, I I have the pleasure or curse of starting early. We don't have a huge international footprint, Wells Fargo, relative to some of our peers, but we're definitely geographically dispersed across the United States, and so a lot of the people I work with are in the Eastern time zone, and so I often start my day around 6 a.m., usually on meetings by 6:30, 7 o'clock, and then I think just a lot of meetings to discuss risk strategy, risk concerns, risk issues, and those usually take up probably the first 6, 7 hours of my day, and then it's that afternoon time, and I joke I can actually catch up for my actual work because I'm not on the phone on video anymore, and so it's probably that afternoon time, and I'm actually most productive and actually executing on what my kind of
Mhm.
key priorities, key responsibilities are. And so it's demanding job, but it can also be, I think, very fulfilling.
Mhm.
And so it's just being able to kind of maintain that balance um, while engaged in quite intensive work days. And that's why I think it's really important to be able to offset that intensity of work with like your passions in your personal life, like family, exercise,
Mhm.
other passions I have that I feel offer me that nourishment outside of work and provide
Yeah.
that overall balance in my life.
Very interesting. And what would you say was the proudest moment in your career, or maybe, yeah, maybe some project you work on, or something else?
Yeah, I think I'd maybe go back to the certification that I achieved. So the financial risk manager certification, it was
Mm-hmm.
extremely quantitatively dense and um, very challenging. I think they have a pass rate under 40% for both sections of that test, probably 300 to 400 hours of study total. And I probably rather stupidly decided to take that exam. I took the first part while my first son was being born.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so when my wife at the time was pregnant, and then going through the birth of my first son, I took part one of that exam. And then for some reason, I decided to take part two to coincide with the birth of
Yeah.
my second son. And so I think I'm very proud that I was able to maintain that focus in that space and continue to treat it as a priority and be able to pass both of those sections of that exam at my first attempt. That is a huge source of pride for me in my career.
Interesting. And how would you say the emerging technologies are shaping or influencing the field of risk management?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think in risk management, especially in financial risk management, we work in probably one of the most regulated industries in the world. We have multiple regulatory agencies overseeing us. Our role in maintaining the stability of the financial system is hugely important. So when you think about emerging technologies such as AI, there has to be a level of responsibility and thoughtfulness in how we begin to integrate and utilize those tools. We have to maintain that outlook that we are going to continue to act in a risk-aware, responsible manner. And so Wells Fargo and other large financial institutions, they're definitely starting to integrate that. And we see a lot of opportunities to use those AI tools to address areas where maybe we're spending our time in a manual sense, where there's definitely opportunities for optimization. And then that then frees up the human element to actually be more productive, focus on what we can execute on to further the goals of the company. And so definitely an area that even over the last 4 to 5 months, like it's been astonishing how much of a focus there is on now and actually being able to utilize those technologies, integrate them, use them to help us be more successful in our day-to-day jobs. But at the same time, ensuring that the way we onboard them, the way we use them, the data integrity we have associated with them, that's all being done in a very, again, responsible and risk-aware manner.
That's very interesting. Thank you very much. And what would be advice for students who are looking to get into risk management?
Yeah. Again, I would say pursue a certification that's really relevant to what you want to an industry that you'd like to go into. I don't necessarily believe in pursuing letters after your name or certifications just for the sake of it. I think obviously there is beauty and value in learning and expanding our mind. But if you're going to commit to something like that, then try to think about how can this support me in my career growth. So as I go into risk management, whether it's the FRM or ARM, one of the many certifications out there. And then I'd say just community perspective. And so there's a lot of really great risk communities on LinkedIn and elsewhere. And so that opportunity to actually network with like-minded professionals, keep abreast of changes, advances in the financial risk management space. I think that's been hugely helpful and has been something that I've leaned on in my career growth. So, and then I think kind of related to my first point, as much as you can, and having been young myself and maybe feeling like I didn't have the directional clarity in my career that I have now, it can be challenging, but as much as you can, being able to think through like what is it I want to do with this 40 years I have in my working life, and how should that really direct where I want to focus my attention. Is risk management? What specific area do I want to go in? Is it financial risk management? Is it AI risk management, for example, which is a area that's going to be a huge growth over the next few years? That there's just a lot of opportunities. So being able to identify what you think your niche is, and then being able to pursue that in a targeted manner, I think would actually hold people in really good stead.
That's a great advice. Thank you very much. And the last question is, no, actually, 2 more questions. What are some books or podcasts you would recommend for our students?
Yeah. I'm going to just talk from a personal passion perspective. I love history, and I feel like having a good grounding on history enables us to learn the lessons of those history and integrate them going forward. And I think it's incredibly important. So my favorite podcast is The Rest is History. It's a British podcast, and it's, again, thinking about being like a global citizen expanding my knowledge base. It's a wonderful it's a wonderful podcast, and very funny as well. And then I think maybe specifically in the risk management space, there are two enterprise risk management podcasts
Mm-hmm.
that I listen to. The names escape me now. Maybe I could follow up with them, Vadim, but those are two I listen to
Yeah.
as well, because they discuss emerging risks, they discuss emerging strategies, tactics, approaches, and that's the kind of information that I can then actually start to look to integrate squarely in my day-to-day role. But truthfully, most of my podcast time is spent on my kind of passions outside of work rather
Yeah.
than work.
Thank you very much. And the last question is, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Yeah. Probably two main pieces of advice. One, lean in. So especially when you're starting in your career, I was in a lot of situations where I didn't know what was going on. It could be quite scary at times. Like I was thrust into a situation, I didn't feel like I had the knowledge, the context, the grounding. And in that situation, I think just being present, leaning in, being engaged, showing up, and actually showing an enthusiasm to work, to be a part of that initiative, that holds you like really well in your career. Because a lot of, I think, a successful career trajectory is just being present, taking the opportunities when they come, seizing those opportunities, even if you don't necessarily feel confident, because that confidence and knowledge is going to come. But that confidence and knowledge is not going to come unless you position yourself to take those opportunities. So just as they arise, just say yes to those. And then I think another thing I'd say is aligning yourselves to good mentors, to good leaders. I think a huge part of both being happy in your professional career and also growing is having good bosses.
Yeah.
So leaders who are actually invested in your personal growth, leaders who are inspirational, who are doing great work and who you can grow and be successful with. I think that's hugely important. So when you find that person or persons in your career, being able to make sure that you maintain that those relationships work, foster those relationships, and be able to use that counsel, that mentorship from those individuals to help you grow as well. And I know I said I was going to say two things, but I'll just say one more, and that's again going back to my point a few minutes ago. It's hard when you're younger to know what you want to do, and I think especially for university graduates right now, going into a very uncertain job market, at least in the United States. I'm not sure if it's the same in the United Kingdom, but being able to put thought as much as you can into what you want to do with your career and try and kind of map out maybe some of those milestones while not staying too rigid to them. I think that will hugely help you plan, make the right decisions to support that growth. So as much as you can take that time to be thoughtful about where you want to see your career go in the next 5, 10, 20 years, I think that's hugely important and that'll be very beneficial.